Now, just a quick question on that. At what point did the Torah portions come in?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. Now, this is going to be illustrated in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, and also in three Esdras, or three Ezra, first Esdras. These books talk about what happened. And of course, this has to do with Ezra. And Ezra was, if you look at Ezra 10, you'll see he was appointed as a teacher of the Torah. Let me see if I can find that passage. You know, I always disliked the book of Ezra. As a young man, I didn't want to read it. And then my commission came out of the book of Ezra. And it was like, hey, what are you doing appointing me under the book of Ezra? I don't even like the book of Ezra. Why are you calling me to it? But this is what happened when I began my ministry and doing mission work. I was commissioned to do this, right? And let's see, I'm going to see if I can find it. It's in, maybe it's in Ezra 7. It might be in Ezra 7 now. And this commission, it talks about Ezra, and it says that Ezra, let's see, that Ezra was, let's see, first I'm looking for.
I'm going to bring
it's Ezra 7:10. It's 7:10. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the Torah of Yahweh and to do it, and to teach in Yasharel commandments and judgments. So this was the commission that was given to me in 2002. And I'm like, why am I getting commissioned under this commission, in 2002? I don't even like the book of Ezra, right? But this is what was, because Ezra was, at that time, he was actually a lawyer. He was a student of the Torah. Mm-hmm. He prepared in his heart to seek and understand the Torah and to teach Yasharel the commandments and judgments. So in Ezra, we see that he would begin to teach. He was called into the public square where he would stand up and read the Torah. He would stand up and he would read the Torah, and he would, and then he designated the portions. These are to be read week by week. He divided the Torah up into 52 sections. These are to be read week by week. And so the Torah portion now is going to be modified and changed and manipulated by the rabbis who were going to use this Torah portion and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. However, when you talk about reading the Torah portions, one has to keep in mind that the Torah is one portion of Scripture. We're not Samaritans dealing with the Samaritan Pentateuch, right? The Samaritans say the Samaritan Pentateuch is all the Scripture there is. There's nothing after the Torah of Moshe. There's no writings of David. There's no writings of the prophets. And even in the Aramaic Peshitta, the pre New Testament Aramaic Peshitta, they only included the Torah and the Nevi'im. They did not include the Ketuvim or the writings. They only included the Torah and the prophets. But this is clarified when Mashiach visits the woman at the well, who's a Samaritan. Mm-hmm. And she says, look, this is Yaakov's well. We worship here on this mountain, Shiloh, where we were told to put the tent of meeting, where the tabernacle was supposed to be. And he says to her, well, we know we worship in Yerushalayim. And when he's talking about Yerushalayim, what he's saying to her is that, yes, you have the Pentateuch, but you should also have the Nevi'im. You should also have the Ketuvim. You should also have the Apocrypha. Even you should also have the book of Enoch and Jubilees, because he's going to quote from Enoch and Jubilees.
Right.
And he's also going to quote from 4th Ezra. And so when you see this now, he's telling her, that the scriptures are more complete than what you think, Samaritan woman. But nonetheless, there will come a time when neither on this hill nor in Jerusalem shall you worship, but you shall worship in Ruach and in truth. Mm-hmm. Right. And so all of these things occurred. So with the Torah portion, you have, again, it's very easy to get into the Torah portion and then get into the groove of rabbinic authority. Mm-hmm. Now the rabbi is going to tell you what to do. Now you have to meet rabbinical expectations, not the scriptural expectations of Yahusha, but the rabbinical expectations of Maimonides or Yochai or Akiba or whoever it's going to be, that is going to be lifted up as the rabbi that's going to tell you this is what you need to do. So the Torah portion is, the Parshat. There's the Parshat and the Haftarah,
Right.
and there's also the Besorah. And we segregate all three of those. Even though I think the Besorah could use more improvement, it just requires a lot more reading.
It sure does. Because there's so many connections and bridges and yeah.
But the Torah is something that is worthy of study. And the reason why I say it's worthy of study, and Paul distinguishes this, and it's very difficult for a lot of us in the Torah community to distinguish this. Paul talks about the law of sin and death.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the Torah, there's a lot of death penalty in the Torah. Oh,
Yeah.
you missed Shabbat? Death penalty. Oh, you were insolent to your parents? Death penalty. Oh, you kindled the fire? Death penalty.
Right.
And so, if we were to have a perfect judge who said, okay, stand up before me. All right, how old are you? Well, I'm 50 years old. Okay, great. How many Sabbaths have you missed? Well, I missed one when I was 12. Death penalty.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
who
so you
could
can
stand?
Yeah. Who can stand in the face of that, right? And so you see that the key thing about Moshe's Torah, first of all, you have Yah's Torah. Now, Yah's Torah is kind of twofold. You see the Torah that is given in the garden, right? The Edenic Torah, right? Or the Adamic Torah. And there's things like go forth and multiply.
Right.
Right. You shall use the sun, the moon, and the stars for seasons and signs and days and years. These kinds of teachings that are there. These are commands. These are fundamental commands in this Torah, the Paradise Torah. And so this Torah, that's one thing. And then you have the Torah that is written out by Yah, who writes it out himself. This is in Deuteronomy 5. He wrote it out himself with his own hand. Wrote it out, and then in Deuteronomy 5:22 it says, and he added nothing further. So the hand of Yahweh has given us his Torah. Now Moshe is going to give us his Torah. And Moshe's Torah, part of the reason for Moshe's Torah had to do with the fact that he could take the people out of Egypt, but he couldn't get the Egypt out of the people. And so he's dealing with 2.5 million cats that he's, shepherding through the wilderness. All of them had their own mind. All of them were still trapped in Egypt, who were moaning, even though he had walked them through the Red Sea, had killed the Egyptian army in front of their face, was feeding them with manna. All they were doing was murmuring all day long.
Right.
He could not get the Egypt. He could not get the Mitzrayim out of those people. And so they worshiped animals. They worshiped that golden calf. And when they worshiped that golden calf, this is why Yah gave them the animal sacrifices, because they worshiped that golden calf. Oh, you're going to worship that calf? Then you're going to kill that bull. And you're going to kill that lamb 3 times a day, every day, until you stop worshiping that animal.
Wow.
And so this was a lot of the reason why the law of sin and death was given. It was given to correct the hearts of those who could not leave Egypt. Now, I can tell you that to this day, we still have many people that are completely trapped in Egypt.
Yeah.
And you can see it very clearly. If you are in a political system where your capital city, it gives evidence of an obelisk, you're in Egypt.
Yes.
When you go to the graveyard and you see the prestigious Masons buried there, and they're all buried under an obelisk, you're in Egypt.
Yeah.
If you're part of the system that is marked by an obelisk, you're in Egypt. Okay? So, with this being said, you can see very clearly that there are many people to this day that are trapped in Isis, Horus, Seth, that are trapped under the Eye of Ra, that are trapped under the obelisk. They're trapped, they're captured, they're enslaved. And those people, it says in Jeremiah 44, will never be able to utter the name Yahweh. They can't say it. Yah has taken it from their mouth, and they cannot say it. And so anyway, under all of these circumstances, we begin to see that this whole nation state that calls itself Israel should have been called Judea, and it was instead usurping and grabbing onto a claim and a blessing that doesn't really exist.
Right.
What they try to say, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. You curse Israel, you'll be cursed, was a blessing given to Esau and stolen by Yaakov, who was not yet called Yasharel.
Yeah.
And so you shall know them by their fruit. Okay, let's judge it. We've been blessing this country since 1948. How are the blessings doing coming into us? We ended up with our president being assassinated. We ended up with our World Trade Center being taken down. We ended up being drug into wars in Libya, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Afghanistan, and Iraq twice. And now and the second time in Iraq, we were let in by the representations of a certain Netan Baal, who said they have weapons of mass destruction. And once we behead Saddam Hussein, everything's going to be fine. Look at the mess we have in Iraq today. Yeah. $7 trillion later, look at did we get what we wanted out of Iraq? Spending $7 trillion, did we? 4,500 dead Americans?
Somebody did, but it wasn't the average American. Our dollar is now devalued to it's almost worthless. We're in a mess right now. Our economy's in a mess. Our families are in a mess.